Hey, what up everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you today. I'm inside the car because it's a little bit gloomy outside. Don't have the beautiful California sun behind me. Let me start this video off. I'll tip the iced coffee off to my good buddies Luke, Zach, and Miguel. They looked like they had a hell of a time last night out there at PWG. Honestly, I'm very jealous. I would go out there for any show, but last night watching them tweet from the show, especially with Zach taking a bump in the front row, it looked like it was a hell of a time. So as soon as they all get back, I would love to talk to them about how great that was, especially being able to see Kevin Steen's last show for PWG. What a special wrestler it was. But tonight, or what is this? Today, fuck me. I've been working a little bit too much overtime covering somebody's shifts who's sick at work. So it is what it is. Bryan's recovery time. Basically, we all got the good story about Daniel Bryan running down the crook, breaking into his house. He was able to put the rear naked choke on the guy and hold him until the cops came. Honestly, in my opinion, I know that Daniel Bryan's a celebrity, and it's a pretty cool story, and I don't know if maybe WWE pushed it or if local news pushed it, but it seemed like they made it into a little bit of a bigger story. Why they had to have some sit-down press conference for it, I'll never have any idea. It went a little bit too long. Basically, the questions turned basically into questions that you would hear like on the WrestleMania press conference when they try to make those into a big deal. Asking the funny questions with the fake reporters and everything like that. Once the questions turned in, do you think Triple H sent the burglars to sort of stop your recovery time from getting you back into the ring? That's what it was like. All right, it's time to turn this off. It's no longer news anymore. But basically, Daniel Bryan has come out and he has had worse news about his recovery. Everybody knows about the neck and shoulder problems stemming from his neck surgery that basically had to stop his title run, where he had to hand the title over to the Authority, which gave us the Money in the Bank World Heavyweight Championship WWE ladder match that crowned John Cena the champ. Now it's said that Daniel Bryan has to go in for another surgery, not on his neck or his shoulder, but this time on his elbow, and hopefully that'll seize up some of the nerve problems that he's having in order to get him back into the ring. It is said that his recovery time is going to push him back now all the way into the Royal Rumble. It's hard to remember anybody who's had a year like this, basically, where he's got the push of a lifetime this whole year. I mean, it didn't really work out that way from the beginning. Of course, everybody remembers Royal Rumble time. He wasn't even in the Rumble. He only had a match with Bray Wyatt. It was rumored that he was going to be in it. I honestly was picking him to win it, and then he honestly didn't even get a number. Number 30, Rey Mysterio comes running out there, and he gets the pop of a lifetime, only it's everybody booing him instead of cheering for him. I know that Mysterio has never been a heel in WWE, but it's probably one of the only times he's ever really been heavily booed by that Pittsburgh crowd, by him running out. And then, of course, that led to his match at the Elimination Chamber, which then went on to him sneaking his way into WrestleMania by him beating Triple H in the opener. It's hard to say that it's the opener when the match didn't even start until about 30 minutes in. And by the time that match ends, you're already an hour into the 4-hour show. I watched this WrestleMania 30 the other day with my brother-in-law when he came over, and I was honestly surprised. I wasn't embarrassed because we were having fun, but it was like he couldn't believe it that we'd been watching the show for an hour, and the only thing we'd really seen is Hogan, Rock, and Stone Cold in the ring, and then the Triple H match, which was great. And I was like, well, if you want to watch the whole thing, we might want to fast forward a bit because we don't get to see Brock and Undertaker, we don't get to see Bryan move the title for a good long little while. So we hit the fast forward button and we skipped a little bit. But it sucks for Daniel Bryan, to have the start of the year. Of course, everybody knows about his book that was, pushed out there at Comic-Con. He's going to have the story of main eventing WrestleMania. It's going to be a good read once that finally does come out. But then, to sit on the shelf after that, basically he never even got a chance to lose his championship. They kept it on him as long as they could before, being sort of forced to strip him. I was sort of advocating, don't strip him after 1 month. And then even at 2, I was like, maybe they're doing it a little bit too soon. But then it did set up a good match at Money in the Bank. It was no time better than that to set a story for those guys getting in the ring. I think it ended up being 8 guys by the time it was all over that was in that match. Climbing up a ladder trying to get it. It did sort of. It was kind of weird that the Money in the Bank wasn't highlighted by the Money in the Bank itself. They were able to add that sort of future stars match that they were going after the actual briefcase with Seth Rollins winning that. But D-Bry, if there's anybody out there, I think the fans can really get behind him. I think that's the reason why he really did get his push. I listened to the Chris Jericho podcast with Zack Ryder. And honestly, that was one of my favorite episodes that Jericho's ever done. I know a lot of people are going to be saying that the 2-part Heyman episode was really good as well. But I really did like Ryder as he told this story about coming from the bottom. And he didn't really make the top. But, I mean, he was a lot higher, winning the United States Championship. Crowds at the Survivor Series, chanting his name, really wanting to see him, especially with Rock was in the ring, giving his, goodbye promo to everybody, and everybody's chanting Ryder, Ryder, Ryder. That's about as on top of the world as you can get. And he was sort of saying how, fans started buying that basic shirt. They started following on Twitter. They started pushing to see him on Raw because they sort of looked at him as, he was the bottom of the barrel of the WWE, but he was like a fan, pretty much. Everybody knew that he really did love wrestling. He was like one of them, and that's sort of like the same way that we see Daniel Bryan. He came from the Indies. He got his little push coming in. He got to beat Miz for the United States Championship, and the rise to the top against the Machine is a lot like Stone Cold Steve Austin. How basically with the Attitude Era, everybody hated their boss. Even today, most people will say they hate their boss. If you don't hate them, there's got to be a time when you've wanted to hit somebody with a Stone Cold Stunner. And I think everybody's had a time, their job where they've felt like they've been, being pushed down. They're better than what they are, and your back's up against the wall. What are you gonna do? Quit and go start at the bottom somewhere else? You might feel good for a minute, but then once you get home from quitting your job and you have to worry about where that paycheck's gonna come from. I think that's a lot like what Daniel Bryan had to do, where he knew he was the best wrestler in the WWE, and they weren't giving him a chance to prove it. They had the promo with him saying that basically Triple H didn't even let him have a chance to get a number in the Royal Rumble, and that's basically what pushed them going all the way with the match at WrestleMania. But I don't know. I think the fans will really get behind Daniel Bryan when he does come back. I do have a fear that it's not going to be what it was, for the whole Royal Rumble to WrestleMania, yes push. But I think definitely the fans aren't going to forget about him. I think that maybe by that time they would have established Brock Lesnar more than likely being the champion. Then you got Roman Reigns, who's more than likely, it looks like he's going to be fighting for the championship. If it's not going to be a guy like The Rock. Definitely Daniel Bryan's going to be one of those top stars. If it comes down to it, maybe if you don't have the best situation, Rock doesn't come in and wrestle. Maybe you do Brock versus Roman. Then that sort of leaves you like, what do you do with Cena? What do you do with Daniel Bryan? I think everybody would love to see Daniel Bryan versus John Cena one more time. SummerSlam last year was a very magical moment in wrestling time, a great match. I think a lot of people have a bad feeling in their stomach about the Randy Orton and Triple H cash-in at the end. But maybe you can bring CM Punk back. Maybe you do Daniel Bryan versus CM Punk. That's been a talked about dream match for WrestleMania for a lot of Ring of Honor fans for a long, long time. Just to see those two guys going at it on the big WrestleMania stage. We've seen them both be champions, but we never got to see them. We've got to see them wrestle in WWE, but we never got to see them wrestle on a big stage like WrestleMania. So, maybe that's something to go for. But, basically just get well done, Bryan. Heal up all you can, and come back and be the best in the world again. Peace out.